As most of you know at this point, Boltreaver Astalos is my favorite monster in Monster Hunter, and he was the first deviant I've ever beaten solo. But can I beat the extreme version? I am ReaverJolt, and today, we'll look at my attempts at hunting EX Boltreaver Astalos. Now before we get started, I want to mention that while I was attempting to take on EX Boltreaver Astalos, I was trying to get footage for a tribute video, but that video is being delayed for the reason that this video is a thing. Also, I will be mentioning EX Boltreaver Astalos as Bolt EX to make saying the name easier. So with that out of the way, let's get into the video. So if you guys remember from last year, I was trying to beat Bolt EX solo without breaking any parts. This was the 1000 subscriber special, and at the time, I couldn't even come close to beating it even if I had the feeling. I'll explain more as we go on. So I was trying to beat Bolt EX as I had a counter build for it, but little did I know that it was going to take a lot more than that to take him down. I was using Adept Charge Blade at the time because it was the style I was best with. Sadly though, every attempt I did with Adept Charge Blade didn't end well. Even when I felt that I was close to beating Bolt EX, I was overwhelmed. Normally, Adept Charge Blade is my answer for Boltreaver, but for this quest it just wasn't cutting it. I was caught in too many instances where I was one shot after either an Adept dodge or making a mistake. And speaking of mistakes, that is something you want to avoid when taking on EX deviants in general. One small mistake can cost you a cart or even the run. This is the kind of thing that is mostly catered for speedrunning, as it takes a lot of practice to get a good run where you beat a given monster without skipping a beat. This is the case for any normal monster, but with EX deviants it's almost a requirement. So I was still trying to beat Bolt EX with Adept Charge Blade, and I had just given up, especially when I decided to do my research about Bolt EX's health pool. Normally his health is in the 13,000s, but the EX version has 21,750 health. That's a lot more health than he should have in my opinion, but that's how it is with all EX deviants. They all have more health than usual, and as such, I was never even close to beating it before with my 1000 sub special like I thought. Anyway, I thought I had given up until I decided to try another option, Valor Dual Blades. I used Valor Dual Blades in the 1000 sub special, but I was trying to beat Boltreaver EX without breaking any parts, but was never close like I already mentioned. However, I got a lot of practice with it, and I do have to say that dual blades are the only weapon type that I can use Valor with. I never liked using Valor style on any other weapon type, but that's beside the point. The dual blades I decided to go with are the Malagams. These blades have a really high sharpness value and some decent raw. These were the only ice blades that I could find that had white sharpness that was easy to maintain without handicraft. I was practicing against Boltreaver in other quests, and I made a discovery from me, if you will. I'm sure this was discovered by other people, but nevertheless, I found out that once in Valor mode, I can successfully evade most of his attacks with the special dash by pressing the R button at the right time. This also sharpens my weapon, which really helps. So after all of that practicing, I decided to attempt it again, and I was still having trouble. I've come to learn that it's very risky to Valor Sheath Bolt EX's attacks. Even if you take less damage than you otherwise would without it, you still take so much damage, leaving you wide open for a guaranteed one-shot. On top of that, it's hard to get Valor gauge up when you risk getting one-shot. I had a lot of failed attempts, to say the least. I even had to evaluate my armor, and it helps in theory, but ended up not helping as much as it should have. So I ended up going with an armor that has helped me in many quests before, the Boltreaver set. Yes, you heard me right, this armor has been tried and true throughout many of my hunts. The skills that it comes with really helps with critical hits, and I also have a charm with Razor Sharp. Combine that with the special dash evasion move that sharpens my weapon, and I basically never lose white sharpness. However, even with this armor set, I was still struggling in many attempts to beat Bolt EX. Until the very next attempt. Suddenly, there was a chance. I was gaming out of my mind. I was making moves and avoiding attacks like never before. It was like I had a sudden burst of energy going into this run. I did make some mistakes in the run that caused me to faint, but I had dealt so much damage in those first 15 minutes of the run that even when I fainted, I still had a chance. My heart was pumping, and this hope I had of beating Bolt EX was there. Victory was in sight. All I had to do was be careful to not make any more mistakes. Sadly though, I went down and had one feint left. If I make a mistake now, it's game over. It was at this point where I ran out of healing items. It was now or never. This last chance to finally beat this thing. The timer was 5 minutes, which really emphasizes how hard these EXs really are. I was doing my best to whittle away at its health while still trying to maintain whatever health I had left that I couldn't do anything about. Bolt EX did his magnetic energy attack, then charged me at full force, but I avoided it. Then I went for his head to deal some extra damage, then he went into rage mode, locking me with his roar long enough to do one last tail swipe, losing me this battle. I'm sure that I was close to beating him that time, but sadly, that took so much of my energy and efforts that I decided to throw in the towel. But I gotta say, even after such a hard loss, that was probably the best experience I had fighting Boltreaver Astalos yet. Yes, I did lose, but even after this hard-fought battle, that will not change the fact that he is my favorite monster of all time. In fact, this gives me a newfound appreciation for it. This experience in this fight will probably go down as one of my best moments even though I didn't win. At this point, I'm perfectly content with not being able to beat Bolt EX. And while I could keep doing my attempts until I finally beat him, that would only cause more stress on me. And because of how much time this was taking, I have to do the much less stressful Deviant quests for the tribute video that's coming soon. So now comes the question, will I attempt Boltreaver EX again? At some point, yes, but not anytime soon. The amount of failed attempts this took me was enough to tucker me out. Maybe I'll attempt him again later in the year. So with that in mind, thank you very much for watching. I worked really hard to make this video, so sharing it would help so much. And if you would like to see more like this, consider liking the video, consider subscribing and turning on the bell to keep up with my uploads. And lastly, be kind to one another and have a most wonderful day.